Welcome to Not So Silent, August 13th, episode 5. We will say what you can't, and we think we're right. I wouldn't bet on it. We got a lot this week has happened. On today's show, we're going to go through our weekly COVID update, continuing to move the goalposts. So we got some COVID updates, something no one is talking about because now all of a sudden we are back on the must have a vaccine train, but I believe there's some herd immunity starting to happen. We got rioting and looting in my city of Chicago. No surprise. We got a ton of sports updates just came through in the last couple of days. Serious or satire? We're going to do some prognostication station, and we actually have an update on the VP pick. Who was right and who was wrong? I'll give you a hint. I was right. And our top 5 most underrated things. We have our website up and running, so check us out at notsosilent.com. If you go to notsosilent.com, you can check out our YouTube page from there, see links to all the different YouTube and podcasts. You can connect with us and our membership so that we can send you guys newsletters and all the other stuff that we do. So please go to notsosilent.com. But today's show is brought to you by 6 Kids Construction. 6 Kids Construction out of the St. Louis area. They are going to make your house beautiful. Right now, I'm sure there are a lot of people in Big Ten country wanting to get out. Big Ten and Big East country. We want out and we are moving. If you are heading down south towards the St. Louis area and you want to buy a new house and fix it up right when you get there, look up 6 Kids Construction for interior and exterior painting. Make your house a home. So the number 6, kidsconstruction.com. All right, so today I am joined by Chris Herdigan in St. Louis. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well, a little under the weather. Not sure if it's the Rona or just a cold, but doing fine nonetheless.
Well, in this day and age, we're just going to keep assuming it's the Rona every time someone is sick. All right, so let's get into our Rona update, our COVID update. I don't know why this is getting zero traction. New York has herd immunity and no one is talking about it. Literally no one. This is a hot take you're only going to hear on Not So Silent. Whereas for some reason, everyone is silent about herd immunity. This was the big, I remember in March, reading articles when COVID was just coming out, and everyone who was a real epidemiologist was coming out and saying, here's the deal. We have a pandemic. The WHO just said it's a pandemic. We basically have 2 options. A vaccine that can take 3 to 5 years or herd immunity. And that was our 2 options, or everyone's going to die. You know, this is basically what we were staring at. I didn't really understand what any of this stuff was. And then they said, okay, we need to flatten the curve. We're going to take 2 or 3 weeks off of our world, and we're going to flatten the curve so we don't overwhelm the system. And then we're going to get back to life. And then all of a sudden started this kick of, we need a vaccine, even though it was supposed to take, 3 to 5 years or whatever it is. Well, New York has herd immunity. No one has said this. No one is saying New York has herd immunity. Let me explain with some data so people don't think I'm just guessing. 2 major studies that you need to put together and you realize there is herd immunity. Number 1, the CDC did a major study. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago from March through May, and they found anywhere from 6 to 24 times the amount of cases actually had occurred because testing was behind and so on from March to May. Now, we can't do that with today's numbers because this study was done on seroprevalence between March and May. If you read into it, that's across the entirety of the United States. New York was on the higher end of that scale. There were certain communities that they tested in New York that had 68% already had it. So New York was on the higher end of the 6 to 24 times herd immunity. During those 3 months, New York had close to 400,000 confirmed cases. Now, the second component to this is what creates herd immunity. The big number was always 60 to 70%. 60% is kind of like the threshold. However, Science magazine has just come out last week that the threshold for coronavirus is not going to be 60% based on how our T cells or immune system react to it, because COVID is similar to other coronaviruses like the common cold. There's a lot of people whose bodies will actually naturally react to this. So they're saying anywhere from 20 to 50%. They don't know exactly. But even if you use 40% of the population has it, and you increase the actual amount of confirmed cases in New York, why do you think New York, even though they've opened back up like everyone else, and it's not because they wear masks and no one else does, because California wears masks, we wear masks. Why do you think New York's daily cases are so incredibly low compared with everywhere else? It's herd immunity. They have herd immunity. They've achieved one of the two ways out of this. Now, you might say, but look at all of the deaths in New York. We can't afford those kind of deaths. We have to wait for a vaccine. However, Chris, have you looked into why they had so many deaths in New York?
Oh, yeah. It's the mandating of sending sick old people back to nursing homes. And by the way, the feds are trying to investigate it, and Cuomo is blocking an investigation that is showing far more people may have died because of that go-ahead order by him. I mean, it is almost criminal how much that has skewed the data, not just in New York, but in the United States, of all places, and anybody who followed suit. So the media continue to prop up Cuomo as this golden child, and he's just absolutely the worst.
He is the worst. He is the worst leader we've ever had. The worst leader we've ever had. And frankly, there was an article that came out August 11th, so 2 days ago, in the AP, and this is the headline: New York's true nursing home death toll cloaked in secrecy. What they go on to show is it likely accounted for at least 11,000 of their 32,000 deaths was due to him putting the people back in the nursing homes. And I mean, again, New York's death rate is off the charts high. And likely the two reasons why is, number one, is they do have more cases because their cases came when we weren't testing. And secondly, because he shoved everyone back into nursing homes. And the other part that comes with it is New York is one of the few states that does not release their data as someone being in a nursing home if they technically died in the hospital, even though they left the nursing home to go to the hospital to die. They're not a nursing home death. It's they kind of skirt some of the system. So it is really shocking how New York gets away with it. But back to my big hot take, New York has herd immunity. New York is well past this thing and can go back to everyday life, and just with small, slight precautions of washing hands and, keep away from maybe large gatherings. But they have relatively achieved herd immunity based on, if you Science Magazine and the CDC, you put the two studies together, they have herd immunity and no one is talking about it. Why is no one talking about it, Chris?
Well, there's an easy answer to that, especially when you see countries like Denmark, Germany, Austria, France, all having sent kids back weeks ago. No spike in cases, right? All of the data is out there. So what is the major difference between what's going on in our country versus these other countries? I can only deduce we are in an election year, a hotly contested election year. People shock conspiracy theorists whenever I say like this is political, because look, on a micro scale, some people, this may not be political to them. But this Democratic playbook, they need to keep pumping up Corona as a bad thing, as a demonstratively evil thing that's going to kill everybody. The average death is 80 years old. More people died from the H1N1 swine flu under Obama than this disease. And we never even heard of that, really. That was sort of like a passing 15th page of the New York Times type of line, right? But they need
that wasn't more people in the U.S. dying, was it?
Still worldwide, nonetheless, right? And it still was not that big of an issue. Now, if they were to toe the line of, yes, let's send kids back to school, let's get the economy going, what does that mean for Trump? That means largely this thing was handled pretty well. He did the best anyone could. He made decisions that people denounced that now are going, yeah, that was probably a good decision. The economy starts picking up, has a V-shaped recovery. An incumbent president with a strong economy is very difficult to beat. They don't really have another option. They have to keep pumping this.
Okay. Yeah, I would think this is political. I think it's being played on both sides of it. I think more so from the left and the right. I wish people would actually just start making good logical decisions instead of strong political interest decisions on both sides. It's obnoxious just watching this thing play out and seeing the decisions made. New York is actually sending kids back to school, and they're citing we have a great caseload because of all of the work we've done.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, because you have herd immunity,
Yeah.
not the work you've done. You have herd immunity, which is bringing down your caseload. You're going to start to see similar stuff happen throughout the country as herd immunity does become achieved, which the good news from Science Magazine, again, herd immunity is going to be far below the 60% threshold that people are talking about. And we can start moving forward. Now, I'm not quite understanding what the purpose of schools closing doors left and right. My school, just this week, they finally nail in the coffin. They did it to us. It was just They just took the 2 days a week off. They just pulled that back now from us. Schools across the country, by and large, are starting remote, and I am beside myself. Chris, every day I wake up, I feel like I'm in a nightmare, like this alternate universe nightmare that I cannot for the life of me understand how this is working. And we're going to talk about schools, but then I need to get into criminal behavior nightmare. It just feels like something like I am living in Bizarro World out of Seinfeld. Everything is backwards. My kids can't go to school because there's a virus that's spreading around. Back in the day, we were taught, unless your kid was really sick, get them to school.
Get them to school.
In fact, they have like attendance policies that if your kid misses too many days, like there's this big problem that's going to happen with the school, and the teachers and the parents need to meet because your kid has missed too many days. And now
Kamala Harris wants to prosecute parents who have 10 unexcused tardiness. They want to put parents in jail for up to 2 years. She proposed that legislation in California and laughed about it with her cackle. Anyway, more on that later.
Nice. So again, why are schools not open? At the very least, why isn't there a logical solution to schools opening like kids, the kindergarten, first, second, third grade go, and the older kids don't, so that you have half the school filled. Maybe like our school was going to do 2 days a week, which again, I'm still mad that I'm actually fighting for 2 days, or I wanted 5. But why is there no logical way to get our people in person for some classes?
You know what pisses me off more is trying to figure out who to be pissed off at. It's really hard to tell. There's so much bureaucracy. Like, I'm trying to narrow down, I'm so pissed at our principal. But then I hear somebody say, no, actually, he's the one who fought for X, Y, and Z. And it's this executive secretary of so-and-so, but he's also following the public health department who follows this. And I'm like, who do I get to be mad at? I don't know who to be pissed off at. I sort of narrow it down to unions and anecdotes. This is my big problem with liberalism, is trying to rule by the anecdote. Well, there might be 100 teachers across the entire country that die from coronavirus. It's like, how many would die anyways from any virus? Like, it's just maddening. It's this classic, like, I want what feels good today. I don't care what the long-term implications of that are. I've talked about a close family member who's a teacher who is super pissed off that he has to do his job from the school for 6 hours. He was hoping to provide his own childcare to his kids while at home, while doing his job from at home, which shows that he wasn't really working as hard as when he was in school. He's super pissed that he has to be in school. And guess what he's doing with his kids? Sending them to daycare. And so I want to go after him, but my wife's not letting me. But it's like, so wait a minute, you're trying to stand on this holier than thou, I want to protect the kids, but you're sending your kid to daycare? It's the exact same darn thing, man. So he already knows that I'm looking to see if he goes to a grocery store with more than 20 people per square block or whatever. I'm doxing the crap out of him. Look, at least be consistent, or call a spade a spade. Say, yes, I'd rather work from home and make the same amount of money. I'd go, oh, I can at least understand that. But it's the complete absence of truth. That's why there's a lack of logic here, right? That's why it's so frustrating, because it all, frankly, just feels like a bunch of BS. It's not true.
I couldn't agree more. I look at it and I go, I love the whole teachers go back and teach from the school. Feel like it was actually either the principal, the superintendent, whoever it was. In fact, I read the Dallas superintendent said teachers are going to go back in and teach from the school. And his example was, he said, the dog barking while you're trying to give a lesson is unprofessional. I want the teachers teaching from school. I don't believe that's actually the truth. Here's what he did. The superintendent against the school board and the teachers union, this is a game of chess. And they just pulled out and the teachers union just said, we're going to strike, check. And you know what the superintendent said? Fine. You guys don't have to, no one, schools will be remote. You need to come to work. Checkmate.
I love
Because
it.
how can the teachers even fight that?
They can't.
There's no way to fight it. So what's going to end up happening is it's pushing the teachers to being honest and go, all right, well, if we have to come in, I'd way rather just have the kids come here and be in front of me because I can have a good teaching. And now we can get to the reality of, is kids in school a danger and a threat to our communities, to the kids, to the teachers, and everything else? Because if it's not, get them in school. And I personally think the bigger danger, like I've said before on this show, I am far more concerned with the dramatic spike in mental health issues you're going to have with the youth.
We're already seeing it. We're already seeing it. Suicide rates and drug overdoses have more than doubled for the past few months in kids.
Not to mention the kids I'm actually afraid of, and this might sound disingenuous, I'm most afraid of the inner city kids. Yep. I'm most afraid of the black and brown kids that they're saying that they're fighting for, and all the rioting and looting in our city, which I'll talk about in a second. They're saying that that's to protect the black and brown kids. You want to protect them? Get them in school, because there's nothing worse for their lives than having a fifth grader who's like right at that ripe age for the gang leadership. And now what we're going to do is we're going to defund the police and we're going to keep them out of school while mom and dad go to work. Boy, that is just, let's get on the streets and start selling drugs.
Some of the comments I get are like, how can you lump teachers into this? You know, our teachers need to be protected, and teachers, and this isn't, you just want to make the teachers out to be the enemy. And I take a step back and I go, okay, look, obviously there are good teachers in there. There's good and bad people on both sides. So I don't mean to generalize and say no teachers want to go back to school, but they can't say anything because of the way the union's operating. That being said, there's a reason why everybody feels like it's the teachers. Then that's your poor optics. Where are the teachers coming out and saying, this isn't us, we want to go back? So the schools are creating this rift between parents and teachers that I wonder how long that will take to heal. Like I already told my wife, I said, 0 gifts at the end of the year, 0 gifts for birthdays. F that. Their gift was spent on my in-home nannies and spending thousands of dollars to watch my kids. You're not getting so much as a freaking Apple and a Panera gift card for your birthday. Forget that, man.
To finish this off, you make a great point. What I want teachers to stand up and say, I want to teach the kids. Give me an opportunity to teach the kids, some opportunity, 1 day a week. Let's go to an outdoor classroom. I want to be in front of these kids. I signed up to be a teacher because I care about educating the youth of America.
Show us you are not the problem. Show us you're on our side, but I'm not seeing any of that.
I know one who is a good friend of ours. I know one who is. He's frustrated, but the problem is he's also pretty nervous about speaking up because he'll be deemed like the worst person in the world. All right, moving on. Let's talk sports, man. Wow, is there a lot of sports that just happened? Let's go through the recent updates and we'll talk about them. Big Ten football is done for the fall. They're talking about the spring schedule. Pac-12, all sports are canceled through 2020. The Big East, done. The Big East is done through 2020 as well. That's not a big deal for football, but for basketball, lacrosse, other sports, is a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
Wait. Let's see. Big Ten, Pac-12, Big East. The Big 12, which is mostly, Oklahoma down through Texas and so on. The Big 12 has been the not so silent side of the other side. They've said, we're moving forward, we're pressing forward, we're going to play. Here's our start date. Here's the schedule. Let's go. So you have a little bit, but the problem I have is everything keeps closing and opening. In fact, the Big Ten came out with their schedule last Thursday, Monday, they close the season. What are the goalposts they're looking at? Because they are moving every day, so much so that I think the Bears actually beat the Eagles and the double doink didn't exist because the goalposts moved. What is going on? What are the goalposts? What is it that they're looking at to go, hey, if there's this positivity rate or if this happens in this community, I don't get it. The guys are back on campus. They're all practicing. Why are they shutting this down?
And they're all going to be in school. So it's not like they're going to be in a bubble where they're not going to get coronavirus. I'm more interested in the who has something to gain out of this. If the SEC and Big 12 play this year, my goodness, I cannot imagine the ratings the new fans are going to have. Because think about what happens when two major conferences, and the SEC, arguably the biggest conference, most important conference in the country, they have their, in football, they have their season in the fall, and then these other places try to have spring ball. You can't do back-to-back spring and fall seasons. You're going to destroy these kids' bodies, right? Like, so I'm more interested to see that, like, wow, the gains that these campuses have that are standing up for real data and for their kids, I'm more excited to see. Good for you guys. Like, take my money. I'm buying the jerseys. I'm buying the gear. I'm sending my kids to those schools. Like, I'm on board.
And how about this, Chris? Let's imagine you play football at Ohio State. You're a 5-star recruit, and this is your junior season. You're likely going to declare at the end of the season. You're likely a day 1 or day 2 draft pick, or at least projected. Why in the world in March, and would you be playing actual games and risking injury when the draft is coming up in April?
There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
So what you've just done is you've removed all the major talent out of the Big Ten. Ohio State, the top 12 players aren't going to play. Michigan, the top 5. Wisconsin, the top player or 2. The Jonathan Taylors or whatever it is. These guys are going to all sit, and I don't blame them for doing it because they're going to play some 8-game, basically exhibition schedule. And maybe the off chance that I'm showcasing my talents for the draft, forget it. The draft evaluators are going to have moved on. They just watch the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, assuming they do play. What do you think now? There's a little prognostication because you're wrong. Your prognostication back, 4 weeks ago was there's too much money in it. Capitalism is going to win. They're going to play. They just took they're estimating $700 million loss by not playing Big Ten football. What happens to the Big Ten in terms of just financial solvency?
And I read that article, and I don't even know if that calculates the impact on the community, advertisers, etc. Like, it's not just direct revenue, but all the indirect revenue as a result of that. I think it's going to be even more money than that, and I'm shocked. I thought greed would exceed politics. I really thought it would. But gosh, even for years, look, you've got at least teams that if they're going to play, have another full year that they're gelling and working together, right? I imagine that's going to continue to help the recruiting classes of the teams that play versus the ones that don't play. This is going to create an economic ripple effect that these universities may not recover from.
Well, here, let's pile on to this. Let me give you some new info. What's going to happen to, and I'm going to throw out a team, DePaul University women's soccer. My neighbor plays soccer for DePaul University. What happens to DePaul women's soccer? She's a Big East athlete for DePaul. She plays women's soccer. Is there any chance women's soccer even exists in 2 years?
No.
I don't know. They won't have the scholarship without basketball because remember, Big Ten postponed football, but the Big East and Pac-12 have canceled sports, which means basketball is done. So what's going to happen with Villanova, with Marquette, where everything survives on their basketball team? With DePaul women's soccer, I mean, this is not just a football problem because football makes all of the money for these universities so that they can have a women's soccer team. The women's soccer team just loses money. The football team and the basketball team make the money, which pay for the scholarships. That's how this works, right?
Well, they're probably going to cry for a bailout and ask the taxpayers to bail them out. And depending on who's elected, they may get it.
Well, how do you bail out DePaul? They're a private institution. They're not even a public school.
DePaul, you're right. No, I was thinking public, but you're right.
I mean, this again. This is a disaster. It's a crushing blow. Which again, look, if this was going to kill every kid who played soccer, I would say you don't do it, right? But the data tells us it's not. The data tells us. I mean, there were 40 players at Clemson that tested positive. The vast majority didn't even know they had anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
There have been hundreds and hundreds of athletes at the college and professional level who have tested positive for COVID. I don't believe a single one has been hospitalized. And I don't even think there have been more than one or two who have even had a day or two of any sort of serious symptoms.
You know, when you think about herd immunity, going back to your topic there, colleges are like sending all of the young and not vulnerable to an internment camp where they can all get coronavirus and develop herd immunity. Nobody dies, and then they get injected back into the population. It's like the perfect experiment. Like, why would we not do that? But again, politics.
Yeah, that's all I can think is this is, I believe, you know what I believe it is? I don't even think it's politics as much as I think half the country gets their news from one source, half the country gets it from a different. And those news sources are giving it to them very, very differently.
Yeah.
And because of it, their interpretations are different. And I don't think either person is wrong. I think they're just reading data. That's why I want to have this podcast.
I think one of them's wrong. I think that's the whole point of our podcast. Is one side is definitely wrong, and we're right.
Was I sitting on the fence too much there?
Yeah. What are you doing here? What podcast are you hosting? All right, I'm back with Rachel Maddow here on Not So Silent.
Wonderful. All right, how about this one? I like this one. The NBA bubble is now allowing guests. Why do you think they're now allowing guests into the bubble?
It's definitely Uber Eats and not prostitutes.
Okay, so you don't think it? So you think it's food, and it's not because the 23-year-old guy was going, I need my booty call, who is my Florida girl. I need her to. So you think it's Uber Eats?
Well,
I wasn't surprised.
Well, there were every guy was given a fleshlight in their care package. It just turns out they had to order some Magnums, quite a few of them. They were understocked there for the NBA.
All right. So Brett, how about this? I believe, even though we have a grand total of about 6 listeners, one of which is me and one's my wife, Brett Favre must be a listener.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know why I say Brett Favre is a listener?
He's a big-time fan. His comments on Rodgers, I believe.
Yeah, I came out and said when we were trying to figure out which team Rodgers should go to, I said, boy, wouldn't it be cool if he went to the Bears? As much as I hate Aaron Rodgers, I just think, boy, would that be a stick it to the Packers? Favre just came out and agreed with us. So he's been listening. What would you think if Aaron Rodgers comes and plays for the Bears?
Gosh. For those of you that are not watching online, I'm grinning ear to ear. There's the piece of me that goes, you son of a gun. But then I'm like, hell yeah, I would take Rodgers. I don't care if he's 56.
I know. That's the only fear I have is we would get Rodgers when everything fell apart. And it would be one of those like the Packers sticking it to the Bears one more time.
Okay, it'd be sort of like if a men's football team played against a girls' football team. The girls' football team has nothing to lose, right? If you win, you beat a men's football team as a bunch of females, right? So if we lose with Aaron Rodgers past his prime, we lose all the time anyways. But if we beat them with Rodgers and they let him go, oh, what a sweet victory that is. That's better than a Super Bowl, or as good, I should say.
Could you imagine the ratings for that game in Chicago? And the ratings are already high.
I would buy 6 TVs just so, like, every angle. Yeah.
I agree with that. All right. So let's get on to our serious or satire segment. So, Chris, you have to give me some headlines, and I get to decide in this day and age, is it real or is this satire?
Okay. First one. A weatherman in Chicago had to apologize for a little bit of a slip of the tongue. He said that there's a murder front coming to Chicago.
That's got to be serious, or at least it's true.
Satire.
No. Okay.
It is true. Nailed you. Next one. Men's Health is celebrating body positivity with their first obese cover model.
Satire.
That is satire.
Okay, I was gonna say, thank God. I thought because that sounded like something that would be this day and age true.
Right. So at the end of the day, at a pizza shop, a man was robbed and was able to fend off the robber, the assailant, by throwing a pizza at him, and the guy ran away.
Satire.
That is true.
Nice.
This happened a few days ago.
Was that you and you really just wanted the pizza?
Well, that's all I came for. So there was a double apprehension in Oregon. A car thief was caught stealing his car because he crashed into another stolen car. Both people were arrested and taken to jail.
Satire.
That is also true.
Where was this?
This is Oregon.
Oh, no doubt. Probably Portland. Probably they were
Oregon or Florida, one of the two, right? The last one I have for you is that because the president considers like he needs to feel like he has perfect hair, he's complained about the shower pressure in the White House. So the White House, the government is proposing an easing of shower pressure standards in the White House so he can have better hair.
The saddest part about this, I've seen about 7 different liberal outlets come out with that headline, and I've seen them all, and I laugh when I'm picturing the guy who goes to college, gets his journalism degree, gets like this, he gets into Politico or MSNBC, and he's all excited about it, and they're like, here's what I need you to cover. I need you to go cover the water pressure at the White House. And he's like, really? Come on.
Now it has not been fact checked 100%, but it does appear to be true. And it only makes me love Trump more.
I love it. Without Chris here to balance us out with his Sean with his libertarianism, this gets a lot of Trump love. All right, any more?
That's it.
All right, so we're on the prognostication station now. This week we need to go back. It's getting kind of fun now because some of our former prognostications are either coming true or false. Chris, who did you prognosticate Biden would choose for his VP pick?
Val Demings, and he should have chosen her.
And you were wrong. I was correct with my Kamala Harris pick. Now, I got to tell you, I don't know much about it, except for the fact that I was right, as usual. Tell me more about Kamala Harris before we get into this week's prognostication. What are your thoughts on her? What's good and bad about her? I know very little about her except for she's from California, which makes me hate her.
My initial thoughts were, instead of Biden picking his VP candidate amongst all qualified candidates, men, women, black, white, he said, I am for sure going to choose a black woman vice president, which means she was the best of the woman black vice presidents that were available. So I wonder how she feels about that. She was not actually competing with the entire crowd, just with the woke pigeonhole that Biden put her in. Now, she's a mean character. She was really mean to Biden. I mean, literally called him a racist, a segregationist, said that she believes his accusers, that he should apologize, potentially even drop out of the presidential race. And now she's the VP. Like, she hates this guy. She says she thinks he's sexist. He molested women, and she's now propping him up. Like, I'm positive either Joe's about to die or she's going to kill him. That's my second thought. Okay. Third is, this could not have been more of a worse pick for Democrats. I mean, it is just, she had to drop out of the race because her percentage of the votes was so low before she even let the vote get counted in her home state. She was not well liked. She kind of had a bit of a bump early on, but she's very grating on people. She's very extreme, very progressive. Like, because when you're thinking of voting for Joe, right? You're thinking return to normalcy. Joe's not going to rock the boat. Let's get away from Trump. Trump has had a hard time attacking Biden because he's not saying much and he's to some degree towing the middle of the road line. Kamala Harris is very extreme, very left. Like I said, she wanted to put parents in jail if their kids were tardy a few days, 2-year jail sentence. She has joked about her marijuana use while putting people in jail for many, many years for marijuana charges, right? So she's viewed by some of the left as a bit of a narc, as a cop. So the progressives may not feel she's left enough, and then some of the middles might feel she's too far left. She's just going to be a lightning rod. This is going to be about Trump versus Kamala. It's not going to be about Trump versus Biden. He now gets to attach every far left policy and attack all as he wants because she's got sound bites for all of it.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it comes out. We'll see. All right. So on to prognostication. we have to talk about college sports with what just happened, because again, you were wrong, at least in terms of, at least it's looking like you were wrong, because we talked about the college football playoff. Hard pressed to see how that's going to go through. But then again, all they're really losing is Ohio State.
Yeah.
Because the Pac-12 hasn't sent anyone that matters in forever, and the Big Ten really just sends Ohio State.
Yeah.
So you really lost one school. SEC, ACC, Big 12. They're primarily, it's the SEC and ACC with Clemson, and then you throw in Notre Dame too. So, so it still could happen. So college sports seem to be toast. Seems like this is going to have a major reckoning at just in general. Stanford has already canceled 11 sports indefinitely, like they're gone. They're just wiped off their campus. What one major sport do you think will be completely taken away from colleges because of this?
I think I'm going to go with, I can't just say a women's sport, right?
I guess you could.
So to my knowledge, the only moneymakers are men's basketball and men's football.
Correct.
I think men's baseball in some areas maybe breaks even. So I guess I'm going to say, I'm going to go ahead and guess women's volleyball, if I had to be specific.
Let me give you the one that I believe this one's going to blow your mind. College football. I think college football is toast. I think you will see in 5 years college football is toast. I think this is going to drive, and really at this point, anyone listening want to bring some money to the table, I think you're going to see a minor league football system built.
Whoa.
You're already seeing college, and maybe college basketball is the better answer, as you watched, what is it? There's like 4 or 5 of the ESPN 100, or 3 or 4, have already declared they're going to go to the G League instead of college basketball, which good for them, as you're now watching UCLA, the Pac-12 schools, UCLA, Arizona State, USC, there's not going to be basketball. Villanova basketball gone, Georgetown basketball gone, Marquette, at least it's looking like, because they've canceled, I don't doubt the Big Ten is going to cancel basketball. So why go play at a college where there's all this ups and downs? It's not connected to the league whatsoever, all this issue. Why doesn't the NFL create a pipeline for their teams in a minor league system and make money off of it instead of letting the colleges? It made sense before, but now tag on to that the NIL, which is the name, image, likeness, that's going to start to go back to the student athletes here.
Yeah.
I think it already passed in Florida and likely will go national. I think college football is done 5 to 10 years from now.
Well, The Rock did buy the XFL. The XFL is not dead.
Correct. I think for $12 million, right?
Yeah, 12 to 15. Now, that's a hot take, man. We're talking an institution.
Yeah, over 100 years of college football. I mean, this is like, you're talking Army-Navy games from, and I'm not saying there won't be some form of, college football will still be played, Division III, and, but I don't think it'll look anything like it looks like today. I don't think you'll have nearly the amount of money, etc. Because again, if you wipe out 30 to 50 of the top players in college football and you send, college basketball already is a little bit drowned out from what it was 20, 25 years ago, when guys like Shaquille O'Neal and Tim Duncan played their entire careers there. You had a couple of high schoolers, but now there's like 9 or 10 of the top players are there for 1 year and leave. And if they, twist their finger the wrong way, they're out for the year, just like Kyrie Irving, just so that they can get ready for the draft.
Wow.
You got guys going and playing in other countries. You got guys in the G League. I just think that college football and college basketball are just not going to look. In fact, I think the whole college experience, I think everything from the college decisions right now are destroying what you and I know of the university system on both the sports and academic level are just toast. I think 10 years from now, when our kids go to college, I think it's going to be completely different than what it looks like now.
I never thought about your take, but I have thought about the idea that why do we need brick and mortar campuses? Why spend that kind of money when you could have one excellent professor teach over Zoom a ton of kids, and we're going to have experiments with that. But if that happens, then what happens to the sports? So there might be some merit to that. Maybe not in 5 years, but gosh, I wonder if they realize the ripple effect this year off is going to have. Wow.
I know it's a long-term prognostication that
It's a good one.
hopefully we are still doing a podcast to find out if it comes true or not. But I think college football and college basketball actually are going to, they're the money makers, and what'll happen when they get removed and they're not making that kind of money, you are going to see it wipe out college sports as we know it, unfortunately. Or I guess maybe it won't, because, 70 years ago it wasn't making the money and you still had college track programs. The difference was it's not going to be at the elite levels that we see now, because you're not going to be able to pay Nick Saban $8 million a year because there's just not going to be enough money in college sports.
Yep.
So, all right. Just in interest of time, am I afraid, this was your question to me, am I afraid of Biden being elected as much as the left appears to be afraid of Trump? Actually, more so. But not in the same way, right? But more so, because I know what, if Trump gets reelected, which I believe he will, I know what I'm going to get. With Biden, I don't even think we're going to get Biden, first of all. I don't think he, and this isn't trying to be rude, I just don't think he has the mental faculties for the job. And it's shocking you're gonna elect a guy during a pandemic who can't leave his house during the pandemic. That seems ridiculous to me. It's absurd. I don't know how any human being can go and punch the ballot for Biden. I could see them saying, I hate Trump. There should be a Trump and I hate Trump as the two options. There's no way I can walk into, even if it was, let's say it was Trump. Let's say it was Donald Trump and he's not able to leave the White House for this 6-month period of time. And the other button is some 35-year-old Democrat. I would struggle to say I'm going to vote for Trump. The guy can't leave his house. How is he supposed to rule the free world if he's in a bunker the entire time? This doesn't work. So, yeah, I'm pretty terrified of what's about to happen. So, but I don't think it'll happen. All right, let's move into our top 5. I'm really excited. You weren't on the show last week. Top 5 this week. Last week we did most overrated, and it was Sean and I with most overrated. That was actually a really fun one. Now we have most underrated. So this one's going to be a little bit different in the sense that I think you and I are going to look at things that we think are pretty awesome that a lot of people don't know about, haven't heard about. At least mine is, or being way undervalued. And so we are going to be educating our listeners, and I hope they go check out whatever it is we're about to talk about, whether a restaurant or, place to go.
Okay.
So I will let you, great, I'm excited for yours. I will let you start with your number 5, and then I'll go.
My number 5, most underrated, would be having no kids. Everyone says, oh, you got to have kids. When are you having kids, man? I see the people without kids. They seem to be doing all right. I, on the other hand, am grinding it out, trying to put food on the table. I love my kids, but underrated. Having no kids.
All right. My number 5, and this is a personal thing right now. Tennessee. Last time I said overrated was California. I think underrated is Tennessee, although it's no longer a secret as a lot of people are moving there. And my wife and I are looking at moving there. You have no state income tax, some of the lowest property taxes in the entire country. You have the most traveled to national park in the entire country is there. And yet I always still kind of think of it as kind of a hillbilly land. But it is... and excellent weather. 4 seasons, but still pretty mild winters. So Tennessee.
I feel like Tennessee belongs on our top 5 most appropriately rated lists, like based on what you said there. My number 4, learning a trade. This comes on the heels of all the college talk we've been discussing, but you know what? Go to trade school. Get good at something. Like all these white collar workers that don't know how to fix a toilet, man. Like, the trades people are cleaning up. Kids, get out there and learn a trade.
Chris's top 5 things he wish he had done, I think, is what this list is. Not had kids and learned a trade. Chris would be a single plumber. All right. All right. My number 4 is a musical artist. And I think he is awesome. I think a lot of people should go check out his music. He is safe for your kids to listen to, but you would love listening to him if you like rap or hip hop or whatever. NF. NF.
Never heard of him. Maybe he is underrated. Is it a he?
NF.
Z?
Just two letters. N as in Nate. F as in his last name starting with an F.
He's definitely underrated. We don't even know his last name yet.
But I love his music. So NF. All right, Chris, you're number 3.
Living in a small town.
Did you just look at your life and go, what are the 5 things that I didn't do right?
Well, I didn't put lose weight on here, okay? So, well, look, for a lot of the same reasons you tried to mention Tennessee as underrated, everybody wants to leave small towns, but like, man, there's something to be said about having a nice, tight-knit community, tend to be safer, lower cost of living, for all the reasons you mentioned Tennessee, but I think big cities are overrated, man.
Are you saying Chicago's not safe? Shocking. All right, my number 3. I'd like to say this guy's a competitor, but that would be an embarrassment to him because, again, we have about 12 listeners. Someone everyone should be checking out. He's a big inspiration to both of us to want to do something like this. Clay Travis and Outkick the Coverage. I don't think he is as well known as he should be. I think he is brilliant. Has an amazing take on just about everything that goes on, and mostly the sports world, but just the world in general. Very fair down the middle. He's actually relatively Democrat and always just voted Democrat, but he has come out pretty strongly against them more recently. That's how I heard about him. He was very anti-ESPN, which I am, for their liberal takes on everything. So Clay Travis and his company Outkick the Coverage.
Okay, that's a good one. I love Clay Travis. My number 2, underrated, is nicotine. You know, there's a Harvard study that came out that says, look, nicotine gets a bad rap because of the way you have to ingest it. Smoking is bad for you. Let's be clear about that. But nicotine has shown to help with things like MS, Alzheimer's, ADHD. It does have some negative side effects like raising your blood pressure and heart rate, but there are no conclusive studies that's really that detrimental to you. And man, we have no real safe way to ingest nicotine other than just smoking. It gets a bad rap, man. Nicotine's a quality stimulant. You know, we can look at it like caffeine.
All right, fair enough. I like that. That's an interesting one. How about this one, Chris? You and I have talked about this for a while because we've been there together a few times. Canada for tourism. I don't think Canada gets enough credit for its cities and how awesome they are, from Vancouver, that is overrun with crazy liberalism like you get in Seattle, but still just unbelievably gorgeous, fun city to be in. Montreal, which is on the other side of the country, might be even cooler, and it feels like you just went to Europe, even though you're still in North America. Then you have Quebec City just down the road from Montreal that's even more European and more steeped in history than Montreal. And then you have your big city, New York, Chicago-like place in Toronto. And then you have a few border towns, which we've gone to one too many times, like Windsor and so on. So Canada for tourism, I don't think everyone talks about Mexico. I think some summer tourism in Canada is awesome. Oh, and then all the lakes that you can go to for fishing and so on.
Oh, and skiing and whatnot, hiking. Yeah, you make some great points there. Canada is wonderful. Vancouver, especially. Sushi. Oh, am I right?
So,
sushi.
Best sushi I've ever had.
Oh, gosh. Okay. My number 1, can't be beat. Still criminally underrated in the entire world. Following Jesus Christ, brother.
Oh, there you go.
Hey.
I like that one. I was going to put down something like being a Christian, but I'm like, it's not exactly underrated. I mean,
it's underrated. It looks from the outside like, man, all you can do is get attacked for trying to be a good person. Like, no, it's a good life, man. Check it out.
All right. So you and I are both our number 1s are pretty powerful parts of our lives following Jesus. And lastly, capitalism. the currently underrated system of capitalism.
No kidding. Great pick, man. It's a stunning
All right,
number one.
so that was a good top 5. I wrote them down. I will get them onto our website, notsosilent.com. I would love to get comments. That wraps up our day. Let me give a little plea here for everyone who decided to listen for the 49 minutes so far. Listen to me carefully. We're trying really hard to get this thing out there. Do me a giant favor. If you're on Spotify, click follow us. That way you'll see every time a new one gets uploaded. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you comment on it and tell us what we can do better or things that you loved, or give us your top 5. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening to us on Stitcher, follow us. Apple Podcasts, follow us. Leave comments, and do me a big favor. Tell everyone you know, just like we're trying to tell everyone we know about Outkick and Clay Travis. Tell everyone you know to give us a listen, and if they like us, follow us. This is just a passion project of ours. And check out our website, notsosilent.com. And at the bottom, give us your email address, and I promise we will spam the crap out of it every 6 minutes like you're a Trump fan. So
I hope you like penis enlargement. It's coming.
It's coming. All right, so that's it for our show, August 13th. Tune in next week when we will have a lot more fun prognostication and top 5s. See you guys.